The starliner Resolute Dawn drifted into orbit above Elora Prime, a lush, jungle-covered planet freshly inducted into the United Terran Accord. It had taken years of diplomacy, cultural exchange, and joint science missions to build trust with the Elorans, a telepathic reptilian race whose society valued ritual and symbolic gestures above all else. Commander Ian Rourke stood on the viewing deck, hands behind his back, watching the blue-green world rotate beneath them. Today marked the first official summit between human leadership and the Eloran High Matriarch. It was in every way historic. "Captain," came the voice of his second-in-command, Lieutenant Amina Das, over the intercom. "The Eloran delegation is requesting your presence in the ceremonial hall." Ian exhaled and turned. "Understood. I'll be there shortly." The ceremonial hall had been specially constructed on Elora Prime's surface, a fusion of human and Eloran architecture. Stone columns wreathed in bioluminescent moss, curved metal arches, and soaring tree canopies woven into the ceiling. Ian descended the silver platform steps, dressed in a formal white and blue Alliance uniform. Awaiting him was the Eloran delegation. 6 tall, sleek-bodied aliens, their scale patterns shimmering with subtle hues of violet and emerald. At the center stood Matriarch Sithana, who towered above even the tallest human, her golden eyes studying Ian with something close to amusement. Eloran expressions were difficult to read, but Ian had spent enough time with them to catch subtle cues. The tip of her tail barely moved. Interest, maybe anticipation. He bowed slightly, enough to honor tradition, but not enough to appear subordinate. "Matriarch Sithana," he said, voice calm and respectful. "I bring greetings from Earth and the United Terran Accord." Sithana stepped forward, holding a carved object in her clawed hand. It resembled a pendant or talisman, a swirl of obsidian and silver with a pulsing blue crystal at the center. As she extended it to him, her voice, rich and melodic, echoed inside his head rather than through the air. "Let this stand as our symbol of unity, Commander Rourke. A token of peace between your kind and mine." He accepted it, fingers brushing the cool surface of the pendant. It thrummed faintly in his palm. "I'm honored," Ian said aloud, and then added with a smile, "Let this be the start of many peaceful years." The Eloran delegation bowed, and the ceremony concluded. But as Ian walked back toward the shuttle, the pendant in his hand began to feel heavier. Back aboard the Resolute Dawn, Ian set the token on his desk. He sat for a long time, watching it pulse with that steady blue light. Scans showed it was inert. No energy signature beyond low-level resonance. No hidden transmissions. No toxic chemicals. Still, something gnawed at him. That night, Ian had strange dreams. Vivid, alien. He stood in endless forests of red-bark trees. Whispering voices surrounded him, speaking in the Eloran tongue, though he somehow understood them. And in the center of it all, the pendant floated in the air, now glowing red instead of blue. When he woke, the pendant was still on his desk, but its blue glow had dimmed, and deep within it, a tiny flicker of red sparked. He tapped his comm, "Lieutenant Das, report to my quarters immediately." Amina arrived minutes later, still in uniform. Ian gestured to the pendant. "Run every scan possible. I don't care if we need to beam it to engineering or the medbay. Something's not right." She frowned but nodded. "Yes, sir." 2 hours later, she returned with a data pad and a pale expression. "It's interfacing with the ship's systems." Ian stood abruptly. "Interfacing? It's not even plugged into anything." "That's what we thought. But the pendant emits low-frequency pulses. They're harmonizing with our data streams, navigation, communications, even the environmental systems. And it's spreading. Shut it down. I tried. It resists interference. Every time we isolate its signal, it shifts frequency. Like it's adapting. Ian stared at the pendant, now flickering a steady red. What the hell is this thing? Later that day, communications with the surface went dead. Then artificial gravity flickered across decks 3 through 5. Then a crewman was found unconscious near engineering. His neural implants overloaded by what the ship's AI called an anomalous interference pattern. Ian had had enough. He ordered the pendant be ejected into space. But as the robotic arm carried it to the airlock, the ship's systems rebelled. The door refused to open. Emergency locks sealed. The ship's temperature began to rise. Slowly but steadily. When they tried moving the pendant manually, the crewman who touched it screamed and collapsed, eyes wide, locked in a seizure. The pendant wasn't a gift. It was a weapon. Ian called for an emergency meeting of his senior staff. Half the bridge crew had already reported strange symptoms. Headaches, visions, loss of time. Amina stood stiffly at his side, knuckles white. It's using us, she said. The pendant. It's not just interfacing with the ship. It's scanning us. Learning. It's alive. No, said Ian, shaking his head. It's not alive. It's a conduit. Something else is alive. On the other side of whatever connection this thing has opened. Silence fell over the table. Ian looked up. The Lorans knew. Ian demanded a second meeting with matriarch Sithana. This time he didn't wait for ceremony or translation. He beamed down directly to her jungle enclave, the pendant locked in a containment case beside him. He stormed into her chamber, flanked by security, and dropped the case with a loud clang. You called this a token of peace, he snapped. Then explain why it's infecting my ship. Sithana looked down at the case. Her gaze, serene before, grew serious. It is not infecting. It is transforming. Transforming into what? A bridge. Between your minds and the deep memory. Ian blinked. What the hell is that? She circled the case. The deep memory is the ancient consciousness of Elora. A sentient, collective intelligence buried in our world's core for eons. It has guided us, evolved us, helped us reach enlightenment. And now you've given it to us without consent. We did not give it to you. We offered a chance. A union. Few species are deemed worthy. Fewer survive the merging. Ian's blood went cold. Survive. The deep memory must know you before it accepts you. If it rejects you. She didn't finish the sentence. Back aboard the Resolute Dawn, the situation worsened. The ship was no longer just glitching, it was evolving. Bulkheads shifted subtly overnight. Holes changed size. Interfaces restructured themselves. A crewman reached for a control panel and was absorbed into the wall, vanishing without a trace. The pendant could not be destroyed. They tried lasers, plasma cutters, even isolation in a null matter field. It adapted to every attempt. Ian stood in the observation bay as the stars outside blurred. We're moving, he whispered. Amina looked at him, alarmed. Sir, the stars. We're not in orbit anymore. He gasped. The ship was traveling through space faster than any drive they had. And it wasn't under human control. Hours passed. Days maybe. The crew no longer received sleep cycles. The clocks didn't make sense. Some had begun to change. Visions, dreams, voices calling them by name. Ian saw his mother in a corridor, though she'd been dead 10 years.